Welcome back, everyone. It's Eshin coming to you from Japan, where I have been, will be. This time I'd like to share a little bit about the reasons why I am putting this stuff on YouTube. This Zen stuff, this Buddha Dharma stuff. Maybe you might consider this a manifesto or a mission statement of sorts. Somewhat to understand how I regard putting Zen content on YouTube, I'd like to paint a picture. So in the ancient days in Japan, hundreds of years ago, samurai roamed the lands. They had sharp things. They could make people do things that they wanted. They could take money if they wanted it. And so they amassed great power and great money. And by being kind of rough and tumble, killing and doing all this kind of bad stuff, they also amassed great amounts of guilt. And with that money and some understanding of Buddhism, that somewhere in the Buddha Dharma there is absolution for the heinous or bad things that one has done. They put money into the construction of temples and the support of the monks who would live in them and operate those temples. So a samurai would commission a temple. Let's build a temple somewhere on this land. And they'd find somebody with the intelligence about, oh, this is good dirt to build a building on, and we should prepare it this way. And then the people who are woodworkers, who are families that have been operating for over 1,000 years here in Japan, building old ancient wooden, now ancient wooden structures, sometimes modern ones too, repairing them as well. My own master's temple is a good example. The standing building is like 350-ish years old, and I'm pretty sure the family that comes and does the maintenance work on the structure, the skeleton of the temple, is the same family who probably built it in the first place, which is kind of nuts when you think about it. We don't have anything like that in the US. But at any rate, a samurai built a place, and then they maybe make a request, and a monk comes and lives in there and takes care of ceremonies, and the samurai can participate in the ceremonies, and the community around the temple can participate and become involved in the temple in some way. And maybe the samurai, in some cases, has exclusive rights to go in the temple and sit and do zazen or to pray, thinking that they are going to get get absolution for some of the guilt that they have, perhaps for heinous things, or centering themselves so that they can be focused whenever they're going to hold a sword and put their lives on the line. Which, okay, that's kind of cool in a sort of a way, but maybe if you just weren't so concerned with killing in the first place, you wouldn't need to do the thing. It's a sketchy gray zone, and it is what it is. That's part of the history of Zen and other Buddhism in Japan. Anyway, we can't do anything about that. It just is what it is. But that said, a temple got built. A whole lot of money, a whole lot of intelligence and wisdom and skill got put together, called together to stand a temple, and people come in and breathe life into it. In the West, outside of Japan, in America, South America, Europe, maybe there's a couple in, I think, South Africa. Not too many in the main majority of Africa, I think, doesn't have any temples in it. But most of those places, at least the modern ones, are converted homes, or perhaps somebody bought a church and then converted it into a temple in some shape or another. There are a couple places where they even bought old schools and converted those into monasteries. There's a really beautiful one in Oregon. And by creating that space, people come in and breathe life into it, and it becomes a place where community occurs. There are people who do zazen in the very middle, and then there's a monk or a priest or a nun who sits in the middle and holds this zazen space, and then outside of that there are people who are very curious and interactive, and maybe they come and sit zazen sometimes, and then outside of that there's a whole bunch of people who are interested in supporting it and participating and being friends with lots of people involved in the temple. And it just becomes a broader and broader, beautiful, radiating circle of community, which ultimately, a cool word is Mahasangha. It becomes the great community of all of us, of all people, of all human beings and living things and unliving things too. And that's really precious. So those are physical forms of a temple. And in a flimsy way, we have the internet, which can create a space that you have access to in your own home to meet with a teacher to some extent. There is no replacement for meeting one on one in person. So you can like smell the stinky breath and the incense burning, all that. You can hear the creaky bones as you sit down on the cushion. There's no substitute for that. And also, you have to be around people that you probably don't like. That is good for you. That's part of the treasure of Sangha. In fact, if you look up here, there's a little red thing that I've installed in all of my videos from here forward, which represents the three treasures. It's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And those three are the Buddha doesn't exactly just, it's not limited to just Siddhartha Gautama. It's a teacher, not necessarily a monk, but when you see wisdom in your life, in nature, teaching you something, causing you to reflect. And then there's the Dharma, which is the truth of everything happening in nature and coming to understand it and seeing it play out, accepting impermanence and the nature of your own suffering and the function of your mind. And then there's Sangha. They stand on an equal plane. Of course, they're stacked Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, but they stand on an equal plane as far as importance. On that note, I'd like to read you a little snip from the Pali Canon, which was sent to me by one of my students who, for this I'm very grateful. So this is for you, everyone. Thus I have heard, at one time the Blessed One was dwelling among the Sakyans in a town called Nagaraka, a market town of the Sakyans. Then Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, and sat down to one side. Seated to one side, Venerable Ananda said to the Blessed One, "Venerable Sir, this is half of the spiritual life, that is, good friendship, good companionship, good association." Do not say that, Ananda. Do not say that. The whole of the spiritual life is this: good friendship, good companionship, good association. It can be expected, Ananda, that a bhikkhu with good friends, companions, and associates will develop and extensively cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. And how, Ananda, does a bhikkhu with good friends, companions, and associates develop and extensively cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path? Here, Ananda, a bhikkhu develops right view dependent on seclusion, supported by dispassion, which is non-attachment, based on ending, culminating in complete relinquishment. Similarly, he develops right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, dependent on seclusion, supported by non-attachment, based on ending, culminating in complete relinquishment. It is this way, Ananda, that a bhikkhu with good friends, companions, and associates develops and extensively cultivates the Noble Eightfold Path. By the following method, too, Ananda, it may be understood how the entire spiritual life is good friendship, good companionship, good association, by relying on me as a good friend. That's, the Buddha referring to himself in this conversation with Ananda. By relying on me as a good friend, Ananda, beings subject to birth are freed from birth. Beings subject to aging are freed from aging. Being subject to death are freed from death. Being subject to sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair are freed from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. By this method, Ananda, it may be understood how the entire spiritual life is good friendship, good companionship, good association. And that's the end of this little sutta. That's a Upada Sutta, half the spiritual life. I may be mispronouncing it. My Pali is very non-existent. That said, what we can arrive at when we enter a temple is community, good friendship. Everyone sort of taking up some sense of uprightness by encountering Buddha. And I don't mean Siddhartha Gautama. He doesn't refer to becoming a good friend of him as the way. It's becoming a good friend of Buddha. It's teacher. It's wisdom. That is Buddha everywhere that you can find if you do a lot of zazen and you figure it out. But you can't really figure it out if you don't do the work. A samurai builds a temple, well, basically commissions the construction of a temple, and goes in there and thinks they're gonna get some absolution. No, you get absolution by doing zazen, by doing the work. I'm not so sure that in the West people tend to build temples or to repurpose a building, a home, or a church with the intent of getting absolution or creating absolution. I don't think that that's what's at play. But, when people come in, just having the sense of, there is Buddha, there is like Buddhism happening here. Well, what is Buddha? Even if you have the vaguest notion, just to contemplate, a Buddha might be a good person. A Buddha might be someone who takes ownership of the mistakes that they've made in their life, because we all make tremendous, stupid mistakes, and it causes unbelievable suffering for ourselves as well as the people around us, and reflects on that and tries their very best to make an adjustment to be better, to be more upright, to be more honest, to atone, and then to carry on. Because you can't undo what mistakes have been made in the past. I can't undo what I've done in the past. I'm human too. But it's about from now, trying to be better. And you get a sense of that when you walk in a temple. The hunch is enough. Just the mere idea. The mere idea of you, and I forget to breathe. But don't forget to breathe. Actually, continue to breathe. That's actually really important. So YouTube is a flimsy digital temple that you all have access to. And our interactions in the comment section or in the emails that we have personally, and for those of you who join the Zen Meets, the more of you are welcome. Please email me and ask. It's open and free. That's the barrier. You have to ask. That's important. That's a part of your work, showing up. Ask me, and you can join a Zen Meet. Those questions and that interaction creates practice. Wholehearted, genuine, authentic practice. And without that engagement, it's just hermitage. And hermitage is, it misses a point. The Buddha walked back into the forest, out from under the Bodhi tree, to share what he came to understand with the people with whom he was practicing other practices in the forest with. So, yeah, I think all Buddhist nuns and monks ought to take up cultivating community, to cultivate sangha around themselves. Not every teacher is perfect. In fact, some teachers even try to sell the thing that they're able to teach, the understanding that they have come to. I have a strong personal doubt, questions, distrust even for selling. I mean, if you write a beautiful book and you try to sell it, that's good. That's okay. It's a kind of that fits. I think that fits very well inside right livelihood, and there are other ways in which sort of peddling Buddha Dharma could be right livelihood. But in my personal opinion, and as a function of my own teaching, Buddha Dharma can't be bought. If you came to me and said, "Hey, Ishin, I'll give you 500 yen to teach me something about Buddhism," I would say, "No, you don't understand," and then just send you away. Why would I do this? I would do this because you can't buy it. You can come and you can ask a question. It's free. There's no goods exchanged there. It can't operate honestly. It can't operate authentically in that realm. Now, of course, I gotta eat. Sometimes I want to buy a present for a friend or go out to dinner with someone. like my partner. You know, did I get to pay rent? Well, for now, I live in an apartment. I don't yet live in a temple. That's coming soon, I hope. But you know, there are things we still have to pay bills, and so that in that way, if you walk into this digital YouTube temple, Eshin, regarding Zen, and you feel inspired, you feel like, oh, there's Buddha and Dharma, and I'm the Sangha. I mean, I, meaning you, are the Sangha. Then that's really great. That's why I do this, for that reason, for your inspiration. Also, well, when you interact with me, that also gives me great inspiration and purpose and passion to practice. Hotsubodaishin, the giving arising a will to the way. And I can't do this without you. It's really, really hard to do alone. I think you know that. So if this helps just a little bit, that's good. When you come in, you get inspired. If you feel like you want to support this thing, because it only happens because of the generosity, the amazing, the unspeakable, the boundless generosity of viewers like you, then yes, you can make a donation using the link in the description down below. For now, that's the only way. It's a little cumbersome. It's got problems. It's not perfect. And nothing is really all that perfect. In a way, the cumbersomeness can become a teacher of its own. And so for those of you who would like to support this, I encourage you to deal with the cumbersome. I'm dealing with it on my end too. And if it's just too easy, then it loses some of its meaning. Of course, it also loses some of its meaning if it's just unnecessarily difficult, but it's not actually that difficult, and it's available. And for those of you who have taken taken up the extensive exercise of clicking and perhaps typing a little bit, it benefits all beings in all directions equally. And it also personally it has changed my life, and just a little bit. It's not like I'm not like getting rich by any means. I'm like the tiniest little Zen YouTube channel there is right now, but at the same time, that some of the crazy stuff I have to say and the way I frame Buddha Dharma has helped or touched any of you is amazing, and I take that very, very seriously. It's the purpose of my life and work as a student of Siddhartha Gautama, in the lineage of Siddhartha Gautama and Bodhidharma and Master Dogen and my master. So, and one last thing. I'm not enlightened. I have a good hunch about what it is. It's really hard to put into words. I keep kind of framing it and waiting for people to develop their own sense. If you watch some of the Zen meets, those are long. There are hints. I think there are hints in all the stories, and I don't think it's as complicated as people think. Recently, I watched a really great Brad Warner video about why you should practice with a teacher. Well, of course, there's Muho, and Brad is really, really great, and Shozan Jack Halbner is really great. And the way they teach and the kind of underpinning, and also the history, the lineage that they come from is trustworthy. Having met Muho in person, you can really tell the authenticity of his practice. And that is highly respectable and a treasure for all to be able to freely access. Well, I'm just throwing mine in for those people for whom my framing seems to fit. That's all this is. But anyway, Brad Warner had this really great point about enlightenment experiences and how you can't really know what you're experiencing unless you are conversing with a teacher. In some ways, maybe the teacher ought to be wiser and more experienced than you, and that's important too, at least in terms of their practice in the Buddha Dharma. But it's also really important to have someone that you trust who can see you and who will tell you what they see. And that is what keeps us honest. It keeps us grounded. It keeps us without having our heads in the clouds, getting confused. It would be very easy to wander off into your imagination, like falling asleep during Zazen, and think that you've entered some enlightened realm. But actually, if a bear came and attacked you, goodbye. Must not be all that enlightened after all. It's my contention, and I think the whole history of Zen's contention, that enlightenment is waking mind just here and now. But how do you regard the world? Making an adjustment to how you regard your suffering, the causes of your suffering, how you handle your relationships, how you treat yourself and others around you. Somewhere in there is Buddha mind, and that is accessible, innate, native to all people, and maybe to all living things to some extent. Coming to a deep understanding of it begins with sitting down. Indeed, sitting down is it. So, with that, deep respect to the fantastic other teachers who you should all, I'm sure you're all watching and checking out, Brad Warner and Shozan Jack Hobner and Muho Roshi. And, it is upon their shoulders where I stand as a humble little baby YouTuber. And I hope that you continue to feel inspired by some of the goofy things I have to say in the realm of Buddha Dharma and Zen. And thank you. As always, there's a link in the description down below where you can put a coin in my begging bowl. And if you want to ask a question, you can email me at askeshin@gmail.com. And if you want to just make comments, that's great too. Try to respond to everyone. Everyone is welcome.